Hey guys, welcome back. Today, let's talk about a classic defenses building in Chinese history. In ancient China, the wall was a very important part for the defensive troops in an ancient Chinese city, especially before the muskets and the cannons were equipped in the army boldly. This was a very useful part in siege battles for the defender side, but after the 20th century, the importance of the wall was gradually decreased, including the Battle of Barbican in 1900, although the giant wall of Beijing city may really have played a role in blocking the attack and the siege and made the attacking side not very easy to enter the city. But finally, this giant wall was not able to defend the modern cannons' firepower and couldn't stop the modern army's step. In addition, when the plane was invented, the walls were almost changed, and after decades, the rocket and the missile, the gunfire and bomb could be shot from the sky, and the battlefield was not just a flat anymore, but it was a 3D space. So from this moment, the time around World War II, the wall of a city was never a practical defensive building. Gradually, it left the stage of history, and the Zhao Wall, Wengcheng, is one of the most important parts of the ancient Chinese wall. So today, in this video, let's retrospect this ancient defensive building in ancient China. The Zhao Wall, or Zhao City, Wengcheng, and it also can be called the Chinese Barbican. In Chinese language, Weng means a kind of jar, and Cheng means the city. In this name, there is a Cheng, but it is not the real Cheng because it may be a building which extends from the wall of the city and was built around the outside of the gate. It's a little bit like the Xinjiang district in the famous anime Attack on Titan, but the difference is that in the real life, the residents were not living in the Wengcheng, and coincidentally, in Europe, the European Council's Barbican was similar to the Chinese Wengcheng. In comparison, Wengcheng might be larger than the European Barbican, as we know that the gate is one of the weakest parts of the wall, so perhaps the ancient people wanted to strengthen the defensive power of the gate. They created Wengcheng. People built an outer wall around the outside area of the gate of the wall. So after that, enemies had to destroy 2 gates to enter the city. And when they broke through the first gate and also entered the Wengcheng, it made the attack side into a weaker position. The defenders could shoot arrows on the top of the wall, and because of the wall of Barbican, the enemies had to stand on a small area to try to break the second gate. So at this moment, the firepower might be more focused on them, and it made the mission of breaking the second gate more difficult. So this is why there's a kind of a defensive building of the wall called Wengcheng, the jar city. It's just like a mouse dropping into a jar, and the jar will limit the movement of the mouse. Then people could catch it easier. Therefore, this was called Wengcheng, the jar city. But now we can't know the exact time of the first Chinese Barbican built out. But in history, this kind of defensive building was getting popular and was built boldly in the 10th century. This was near the early part of the black powder weapon time. In Chinese history, sometimes the outer wall of Wengcheng was not only one layer, just like the wall of ancient Nanjing city, as Wengcheng has a 3 layers wall. So enemies needed to break 4 gates, 3 gates of Wengcheng and 1 gate of the real outer wall in order to enter the city in attacking. Besides Nanjing, the ancient wall of Beijing was another good example. According to some old map from 100 years ago, we can find that almost every gate of the wall was built at Wengcheng. Compared with the Wengcheng of Nanjing, this jar wall of Beijing was a typical type, which was only 1 layer jar wall. Nowadays, if you travel to Qianmen in Beijing, you will see the large gate building and the arrow tower that composes the outline of the Barbican of Qianmen. Plus, beside Europe and China, in Japan, there was this kind of defensive building, like this, Sanada Maru, in the ancient Osaka city. Unfortunately, because of the war in the 17th century, in order to attempt the peace talk with Tokugawa Ieyasu, the Osaka side had to dismantle the Sanada Maru, and the moat was filled up under the pressure of Tokugawa. After that, in the original area of Sanada Maru, people built a jinja, which is Sango Jinja. Okay, this is today's video. Hope you can like this video. Have a good day. See you next time. Bye.